This is White Plains Week, the weekly roundup of White Plains, Westchester, and world news. With John Bailey, editor and publisher of the daily internet newspaper White Plains Citizen Net Reporter, WPCNR.com. Jim Benneroff, editor and publisher of SuburbanStreet.com and WhitePlains.com. And me, Peter Katz, formerly with NBC, ABC News, and stations from Boston to Los Angeles. White Plains Week, what's happening? Who are the newsmakers? What's in store for the future? The views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the participants. White Plains Week is presented on Optimum Cable Channel 76, Verizon Fios Channel 45, and on the internet at whiteplainsweek.com, youtube.com, and wpcommunitymedia.org. Now, White Plains Week.
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. White Plains, Westchester, and the world. John Bailey, the old citizen reporter here with our guest today, Bob Marrone.
How are you,
of
John?
WVOX Radio.
It's nice to see you again.
Yes, great to see you.
Just a couple of days
Right.
since we saw you last.
Right. Jim Benneroff is on assignment today, and right now we have to go to the headlines with Bob Marrone.
You want the headlines from me?
Yes.
Okay, I shall read them. White Plains' Kate Bresler, challenger for the Democratic Party nomination to the Common Council, won her court appeal, as you know, John. We'll be talking about that. There will be a Democratic primary June 25th between Ms. Bresler, Nadine Hunt Robinson, Victoria Presser, and Jennifer Puja, and forgive us if we didn't pronounce that name correctly. Westchester County invites developers to supplement the master plan for Westchester County Airport. The councilman Crolian and Councilwoman Laquana have protested a lack of penalties for developers who delay in starting projects. A work session turns into a hubbub. John, I'm interested in that one. French American School, that decision is appealed by Gedney neighbors, and that is a tennis ball of an issue back and forth for years now. White Plains 2019-2020 budget goes up 2.3% under the cap, $198.3 million. It provides a 2.5% raise for commissioners, 3% for union members. Your property taxes go up 2.7%. The League of Women Voters schedules a forum for the Democratic Common Council for June 17th, 7 to 9 p.m. at the White Plains Library. And don't forget Juneteenth celebration coming up. John.
Well, thank you, Bob. And we'll go to the White Plains Week video newsreel, March of Time. And the big story is Playland is back in the news.
Playland's always in the news.
Yes, it is. And that's how it looked just yesterday. And what happened was that, well, tell us about it.
Well, what had happened basically is 2 days ago now, maybe three, the developer declared bankruptcy, or Standard Amusements. Now, what's interesting about it, the closer you look at it, the Standard Amusements legal entity is just that. It's a legal entity. It's almost a subsidiary. It is one thing. It's not the parent company.
Yeah.
But that entity, that legal contract, that construct, is what has declared bankruptcy, saying that the revenue they had projected for Playland puts them out of business.
Because apparently the county was their only client.
Well, because it was a very specific legal entity, and this is done in business all the time.
Yes.
However, the very next day, or rather just 2 hours later, with all due respect to the county executives team, they issued what is probably the shortest press release in their administration. 3 sentences.
That's right.
And it basically said that, yes, they did this. We'll have to see how the bankruptcy goes. And lastly, have a nice time at Playland. Now, one other hitch.
Yes.
It turns out that in the details of the contract, and no one really knows what this means yet, but if Standard Amusements should declare bankruptcy, it allows the county to walk away. And at least that's how some are interpreting the contract now.
Could be.
So whether it's a move to foster a negotiation, which they had been trying to do for 2 weeks, we're talking about Standard Amusements, is remains to be seen.
And I believe that Nick Singer was quoted on Bloomberg in an article that if we come to an agreement, all his investors will come back. But,
well, that is something that he said there. But now it looks like it's headed to the courts. But again, this little nuance, no one's really sure what it means.
No. Well, but this could take a long time working a
Yes.
bankruptcy proceeding through. In fact, as you see from the slide, they are now in the zombie castle. Because
You call it the zombie castle?
Yes,
I mean,
that's right.
It's doing well.
Yes.
The attendance is up, except for the one.
no,
where
I
you
meant
get-
the bankruptcy is.
Oh,
a-
they're in the zombie
Yeah,
castle.
they're
okay.
in the, we do not know. And the upper right of that slide, you see the bankruptcy filing, and in the left was the termination letter, and they simply now want the bankruptcy court to terminate the termination letter.
You know, we had a conversation earlier with Andy Spano, the former county executive, and we asked him if the county's intransigence and difficulties with the with Standard Amusements had anything to do with the standard practice of patronage of jobs, and he really refuted that. He said that the county, or rather the park, does not have those kinds of jobs. So.
Now, the other headline that was just made this week, Kat Bresler, challenger for the Democratic Party nomination, won her appeal. And here's a shot of her last night when I interviewed her. And she is absolutely ready to go for the primary on June the 25th, where she will oppose Ms. Presser, Ms. Puja, and Nadine Hunt Robinson, and try and secure one of those spots.
John, is there a story within a story here? It seems, when the Democratic Party is not particularly fond of a given candidate, they have a little more difficulty staying on the ballot than others. At
This
least we
is
think we're seeing that
very
in Mount
true.
Vernon as well.
Yeah, very true.
Lagos Laquana took an early exit. Why?
Well, the word was they would not be renominated, she and Groleon.
Now,
So
there are
she-
some that say because she ran against the powers that be.
Yes, and she opposed the mayor, and she has, and this is, so now you get this situation whereby you've been elected to office by the people, but, and Ms. Laquona has been in there 12 years at the end of this year, and now the voters do not get a chance to vote her out.
Well, what about a write-in? You know who's famously, we might add, Delia Farquharson, who was a council candidate down in Mount Vernon. She was taken off the ballot for a very odd reason. Her signatures were in too early. She appealed, it didn't work out. She's running as a write-in. The biggest concern they have is because her name isn't easily spelled, the way the rules are. So she could run she could or might have run, as a write-in candidate.
That,
Bresler seems a little easier to spell than Farquharson.
yes, it is. If you remember, it's a Z, not an S. Exactly.
That'll get some people in
Right,
trouble.
exactly.
So now that's a wide open race. So that's 4 people running in that. Who is the Democratic Party, if you will, endorsed candidate of the 49?
Nadine Hunt Robinson, Victoria Presser, and Jennifer Puja are the Democratic official nominees. Hunt Robinson is running for...
I see. So there are
another
4
term.
seats at large. Are they at
Yeah.
large?
No, there are 3 seats, and so all Bresler has to do is get more than one of the other 3, and she is the
Nothing
nominee.
like sneezing on TV. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, and she has also got the the Workers' Family Party nomination, so she will be on the ballot in November no matter what happens. But what the Democratic Party did by challenging her signatures and getting a judge to overrule the Board of Elections, they gave her an issue.
I see.
They gave her an issue, and I thought it was really stupid of them.
But again, I mentioned, but these are at large seats, right?
Yeah.
They're not in districts.
That's right.
Okay.
Not districts.
That's interesting.
Right, and so this will be interesting, and we have the forum coming up now on June 17th, where all 4 will be addressing the League of Women Voters at the White Plains Library, 7 to 9, June 17th. And let's go to the airport. We have a picture of the Westchester County Airport from a plane that's landing. And there's a big question now as to what to do with our airport, because the county executive has put out an RFP inviting people, consultants, to do more studies of the airport, and God knows what more they have to study.
But John, but studies for what purpose? One of the things that seems
That's true.
vague
What
to
purpose,
those of us
indeed?
who aren't extremely close to the story.
Yeah.
We know that the previous administration was interested in privatizing it.
Mm-hmm.
There was some talk about expanding the airport's footprint.
Mm-hmm.
There was a pushback on that. Of course, you always have people who live there complaining about noise and the rerouting of jets.
Do they ever?
And one wonders why they moved there then. But that said, what is the issue? Other than adding a hotel, what more or less do people want?
Well, they're always worried that they are going to expand the number of flights.
Okay.
And there are still a lot of night violations now.
When you say night violations?
Landing after 11:30.
Oh, because of weather.
Weather, whatever, delays, but there are a lot. And so they're now afraid that they will increase the traffic. But it is amazing how busy that airport really is. And and to my way of thinking, if you expand the airport, you have to, it's the only way Westchester is really going to grow more attractive to business.
Do you have any sense for the zeitgeist, how people who are on this committee or task force are moving?
Well, yeah, I've attended a couple of their meetings, and they were interested in raising the landing rates for all traffic, commercial, whatever, landing at the airport, the big jets. But that has sort of been put on the back burner. We have the lowest rates for landing in the metropolitan area. So naturally, people like to swoop in here with their private jets because they save a lot of money.
For your viewers, what is the yin and the yang? What's the worst that could happen in terms of expansion, and what is the least that could happen? What's the range?
Well, the worst thing would be a longer runway, which would allow bigger jets to land.
Oh, that's not going to fly.
Probably not, but that is what they really should do with it. They have been trying to sell the Stewart Airport as a place to go, but that has never really happened.
Away.
Yes, it is. However, Westchester would be perfect. Everybody in Westchester would go there to fly if you expanded it.
Well, the county seems to be pretty good at holding its cards close to the vest on this, but can we interpret what we think they want?
Well, I think what they really want is not to make a decision.
Oh, okay.
And so, more studies to see how we can make it more environmentally friendly, lower the noise. I mean, come on, this is a stall tactic, but it sounds good, in my opinion.
Okay. Well, we shall see which way.
Hotel. A hotel would be wonderful.
You said it when we were off air too.
Yeah.
The hotel seems to be the one thing that I couldn't see people rejecting that.
Well, I think it would be very good because it would certainly make the airport more of a destination airport.
Now,
and
one
the
other
county
thing
would make money on it, sales tax.
With that, a lot of people have complained about parking at Westchester County Airport.
Oh,
and they
yeah.
tell you take a cab,
Yes.
an Uber, fly,
Yeah.
catapult in.
Yeah, it is a very tough airport to deal with. We always like to pick up people at the airport if they're coming in, and we don't park. But if you park, it's tough. Sometimes you just can't get a slot there.
Literally.
So they definitely need more parking there, which nobody has brought up in the hearings I've attended.
Not yet.
Yes, not yet. But the airport, definitely, you really wonder, because I have a picture there of the Millionaire facility, which recently opened. And if you take a look at the shot of the Millionaire facility, you can see, boom, this is like a luxury hotel.
You know, it does look nice, but it doesn't look modern, though. It looks like a luxury hotel from the 50s.
very much like a hotel.
Okay, like
you
a
know.
lobby.
Yes, like a lobby, and it's very luxurious.
I know it's luxurious. I expected it to be a little
and
more
it's-
jet set, trendy, but it's not. It's very
Well-
nice, very tasteful.
Well, remember, it is a tremendous expansion, and I've heard that they are really filling up all
that's
their
good.
slots and a lot more traffic. But that's what you're looking at. And the terminal over there could really use a tremendous do-over because it's too small to handle.
Yeah, you also, I think
people
in the
with-
slide you
yeah.
have a picture of the terminal. as
Yes,
well,
right,
so
when
it's-
the plane was coming in. But there's a lot of issues where the county really should address to make the airport more functional. And I'm tired of having neighbors around the airport cry about it. You know?
Well, there's just the,
Particularly Greenwich.
you
Right.
buy a house around the airport. Why would you complain about airplanes? You know, that's like people who buy a house on a golf course. They take all of the benefits inherent in having a prestigious place, and then they get upset when a golf ball comes to the window.
Okay, so let's go into development. I'm going to show you some pictures of some of the developments that are really stalled out in White Plains, and there are about 8 of them on 2 slides, and some of them are just stalled out. We have one, the East Post Road in Mamaroneck, that supposedly is going to start next week because they just paid their construction permit, their building permit fee. But the problem is developers get the approvals and then they run into problems. They can't lease up their retail, and they're a little worried about whether they've priced it right, and they don't build. I mean, the Bank Street second building was supposed to be ready to go, but it hasn't started yet.
John, one of the headlines we did was you have a Councilman Crowleyan and Councilwoman Laquana protest the lack of penalties, but aren't all such things based on a contract A, which kind of contraindicates what they intend, but also frequently what happens is a bank drops the financing and they have an out. Is it that they don't have an out, they don't have such an out, or that they're just getting cold feet?
I think they bite off more than they can chew. The market changes because it takes so long to get approval in White Plains. Markets change. When Mr. Capelli built the Ritz-Carlton and the City Center, he built 4 towers and retail sections in 4 years.
Yes.
That's tremendous that he got them up that fast. And he once told me, now is the time to build, and time is of the essence. Markets change, and this is what I think has happened to White Plains.
Well, it is, and without knowing the particulars, a lot does also have to do with how the city ramps up for these kinds of things. You know, you'd ask me in New Rochelle development, there are over 20 projects in the works right now.
Now,
As
how did
many as
you
28.
approve so many so fast?
Well, they created this thing that is, and I forget the name of it now, but they created an enterprise zone with the very specific intent of developing within that perimeter, if you will, A, B, and speeding up the processes of zoning, speeding up the processes of permit acquisition, if you had enough financing, cutting deals, if you will, making agreements with the schools, how many rentals would mean how many how much money had to go to the schools. So they created this very special development zone. And that's what accelerated it. Because you're so correct. Everyone is trying to get the development in a certain window, realizing the interest rates aren't going to stay this way forever.
No.
The attitude and accepting it. In fact, now it's going so well that if one likes development, that parking is becoming an issue.
Well, that is an interesting problem here in White Plains because we do
Tell me
not,
about it.
we charge a lot for parking, we give a lot of tickets, and that I think has really hurt us. But
Oh, I think so too.
yeah, but there's no way we can really prove that. Studies have shown that people don't like coming to White Plains because of parking, but everybody ignores that.
Well, isn't it the old who benefits? How much money do they make from the parking fines and the fees and the meters?
It's really something they absolutely love because, but another thing about this is that what John Martin, there was a big discussion of this on the council on Tuesday night, and we'll show there we show the 4 protagonists in this discussion. And what happened was Councilwoman Lacona, in the upper left-hand corner there, brought up the situation that, you know, we have these projects that we approve, and then they don't start, and they don't start. Dennis Crowley, the other councilman, brought up the infamous Shoals Buick property that lies fallow, and Grid Properties told me about last month or so, oh, we're leasing up the retail now when we really intend to build direct from them. But as I say, nothing is happening. The pavilion, nothing is happening. And Lacona and Crowley, after finally raising this issue, raised quite a hubbub. They're shouting back and forth.
What was the response?
What? Well, the response was, well, look at all we are doing, said the mayor, but it's not being done.
But
you know,
this happens in every city. The mayor or the city manager or the development commissioner winds up answering for the developers themselves.
That
Perhaps
is so
the
typical
developers-
here.
But developers should be put on the spot directly.
Yes, well, they, unfortunately, we do not know too much about what the developers tell the city about when they are going to do what.
Well,
It's
did
never
the city
revealed.
give any estimate of when these things might begin?
Well, the East Post Road and Mamaroneck Avenue apartments that are going up are supposedly going to actually start putting it up next week, but they said that a couple of months ago. And so depends on what's going to happen. But John Martin, the councilman, suggested he really doesn't know whether you can tell a developer not to demolish a building and raise a structure if they already own the property. And then the mayor followed up on this lead by saying to Lacona and Crowley, well, how about you research this for us and see if it... But I mean, that is like belling the cat.
It seems to me that maybe a newspaper or you, maybe some of the developers should be sitting right in this chair where I am.
Maybe some of the...
And
Well,
be subject to your inquiry.
it would really be great to discuss things with a developer. Well, some developers do have money. Robert Wesch, he's ready to go. He's starting up his
Well, there
project.
you go. Well, that's...
Yeah, that's right. So let's see. I think they should show us their assets, to say the least. Now, the French-American school decision is being appealed by the Gedney neighbors. The slide there shows the latest idea of FASD, which came out in March, selling their...
Could you help us out? And this may even help out the viewers.
Yes.
Whenever you or anyone else, a newspaper, leads with someone's appealing it, this ball goes back and forth so often. Is it the Gedney people appealing a decision for Fastney, or Fastney appealing a decision for Gedney? Which is it
Gedney
now?
people are appealing the decision that was made by Judge Lefkowitz last August in 2018.
And which this decision
they had
was?
6 months. They had 6 months from a certain date to appeal it.
Who had the 6 months?
Gedney,
to appeal
right.
it. So they
And
have appealed it.
This week was the deadline
Did they
to
appeal?
get to
It's
file
done.
the
They
appeal,
got in.
and they did. They got it in, and the two lawyers did it pro bono.
Really?
Yes, pro bono, and it is now gone in, and then the court, the appellate court, decides when they're going to hear it, and they may not get on the calendar for as late as 2020.
So how many years has this gone on? I can only relate to in 2014, I had them on the air
It'll
for
be
the first
10
time.
years. It's 8 years this year, and if it takes another 2 years, that'll be a decade that this has been
that they've
kicking
been trying to
around.
do this. What has kept, do you think, the Fastney folks from just picking their ball up and going home? I mean, I know they have an existing school there, but
Yeah. Well, they don't have a school on the property.
well,
yet.
not on that
Yeah,
property.
right?
But are there not other nicer locations or equal locations in Westchester?
one would have thought they could consolidate at an empty headquarters,
And how much
like
money? have they
like Windward did. And but really, they have it cost them a lot. They bought the property for about 10 million, I think, and So they've probably spent about another $5 million in legal fees and consulting.
The Fastney people, all right, some
I'm
stuff
guessing.
gets done pro bono, but this has to be expensive for them as well.
Yes, it is. But the Fastney thing is not over yet, and we'll see what the appellate court does with it.
It's really interesting. Really an interesting fight.
It certainly is. Now, the White Plains budget was approved this week, I believe. We're taping on Thursday. It's supposed to be approved tonight, and it goes up 2.3% to $198.3 million, provides 2.5% raises for commissioners and 3% for unions. Property taxes up 2.7%, and you know, that's not bad, 2.7%.
And everyone wants to come in under the cap. Tell me, here in White Plains, we have this debate in the New Rochelle media all the time. We stay under the tax cap, but there are a lot of what Ed Norton once said to Ralph Cramden, miscellaneous charges. We have a garbage fee there and a number of other things that, if you will, are, we used to call it off balance sheet or not really in the, they're not taxes, but they are taxes kind of things.
Yes,
you
it's
have any
like
of
the county garbage and sewer taxes.
Oh, okay.
Which,
but at least it's called a tax.
Yeah.
In New Rochelle, it's not called a tax, and you can't even write it off, if and when you could.
Yeah. No, but White Plains, I don't believe, has any real hidden stuff like that.
Okay.
We have the
Well,
water
it's
bills,
not hidden.
but
They're perfectly open about it.
Yeah.
The city manager would tell you if he sat right here, oh, we know it's for all intent and purpose a tax, but we'll never get the city council to vote it as a tax, so we're stuck.
And New Rochelle had this zone to get all their development done.
Yes.
Now, we have a zone in the downtown, which is supposedly going to improve the train station, which is starting to be done, but I don't see really much improvement, to tell you the truth.
Okay.
And then the city was going to put out 4 parcels that they own right adjacent on the east side of the railroad for RFPs. Now, supposedly they have done that and they've gotten it back. We haven't heard anything about what those proposals are. Now, this was about a couple of years ago when this all started. So I'm pointing out that you can create a zone, but you gotta move fast and know what you're doing.
You have to move fast, and depending, and this is not to cast aspersions, I wouldn't know, but whomever is in charge of it needs to fast track a lot of stuff. Again, not to compare, but New Rochelle brought in this new commissioner who just came out of the gun, just came right out of the barrel, knowing what he wanted to do. And he got good buy-in from the city manager. He got a unanimous vote from the city council to set up this development zone in the downtown. So that really facilitated things, really expedited them.
Well, I mean, the White Plains project was not expedited in a fast fashion. It took about a year to do the surveying the people about what they wanted or what they were told what could be done.
But to be fair, John, isn't it also true, you know, the city's in pretty good shape, it's well run, your budget's pretty tight, but maybe there really wasn't the appetite for development that there was in other cities like New Rochelle.
Well, there can be an appetite, but you have to want to eat.
Well, yes.
Right. Well, listen, Bob, thank you very much for sitting in today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Really
I
great.
appreciate
Bob
it.
Marrone of WVOX. He's on.
Thank you.
It's 6 a.m. to 9 a.m.
6 to
Monday
9.
through Friday, 1460.
Sleep is not an option.
And
6 to
around
9,
the world.
1460, and of course on the web at WVOX.com.
Right. John Bailey for Jim Benneroff. Good night for White Plains Week.
This has been White Plains Week. News and commentary about White Plains, Westchester, and the world. The views and opinions expressed on this program were solely those of the participants. White Plains Week, produced by White Plains Citizen Net Reporter, and presented on Optimum Cable Channel 76 and Verizon Fios Channel 45. You may view White Plains Week anytime on the internet at whiteplainsweek.com, youtube.com, and wpcommunitymedia.org. For White Plains Week, this is Peter Katz speaking.